holiday hose. I've often said and even written that my older drunken stripper sister, Donna Sue, put the ho in ho, ho, ho. I'm sure those of y'all who've met her and managed to get away will wholeheartedly agree with this statement. But for those of y'all who ain't had the pleasure or weren't sober enough to remember your dangerous, as the French say, lesions, let me give y'all an example of what I mean regarding Donna Sue. But first, even though a veggie-pushing, large green man wrapped in vinage and strategically positioned leaves is known to use the phrase himself, ho, ho, ho has become more associated as the distinctively recognizable laugh of the man with the overflowing gift bag, Santa Claus. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas, is what he expresses, with a loud but still kind and very innocent air when he's feeling happy and jolly. The same is similar to what my sister says in a happy and jolly way once she's trapped a slow-moving fella at last call when she slurs in a playful catty tone known to strike fear in the hearts of men. Oh, Mama likes. Mama likes. It was on one of those very late nights in December several years back when my sister's happy and jolly had been overtaken by her Jack and Daniels that I discovered just how much of a ho she puts in ho, ho, ho. The Blue Well Strip Club, where my sister dances, called me at closing time saying she was too drunk to drive. Regardless of how much you might love your sibling, a call like this, waking you up in the middle of the night, well, it'd more than likely tick the average person off. But I got to admit, I'm always happy to do my sisterly duty. Some might say it's on account of me being a saint. Others might say it's due to my strive to putting others first. And others might say it's the fact that when Donna Sue is too drunk to drive, she's also too drunk to remember the amount of tip money she's got in her purse. Truth aside, I'd like the sound of the first one. Anyways, after retrieving her drunk as a skunk behind, we made a stop at the late-night convenience store so she could pick up, as she says, a pack of smokes and something deep-fried. What should be a quick in-and-out run always ends up as more of a sit-and-wait adventure when Donna Sue is involved. But what else would you expect from a liquor-soaked gal who, according to popular YouTube late-night footage from a store security camera, spent 15 minutes propositioning a life-size cardboard cutout of a famous NASCAR driver before finally cussing it out and giving it a blast of breath spray she'd mistook for mace. For the record, she don't actually carry mace in her purse or any other grade of possible harmful repellent as specified in the court order. With all this in mind, as well as the idea of something deep-fried also sounding kind of good, not to mention I'd already relocated a good amount of her stash of cash from her handbag while she was carrying on a one-sided suggestive conversation with my Elvis Presley car air freshener, well, I went in with her. Acting as a guide dog, if you will, and momentary fact-checker that, yes, she had never gone out with the bald, earring-wearing man dressed in white on the bottle of all-purpose cleaner, as well as assuring her that he did not want her phone number on account how even though he did think she was hot, he clearly didn't have no cell phone in his pants pocket. Armed with our leftover from lunchtime grease-absorbed beef chimichangas and her unopened pack of Cool Filter Kings, we started back to the car for our short trip to the High Chaparral Trailer Park, where we both keep trailers. Mine, a pink 2-story double-wide, and hers, well, I'll let you just guess at what she lives in. After getting in my car and starting it up, Donna Sue, who'd been right behind me, still hadn't found her way inside. She had been distracted by the sight of this guy wrapped in a blanket seated next to the dumpster. My first thought was she'd stumbled upon easy prey. Sure that this fellow was already feeling down, and the last thing he needed was my sister's womanly ways that would certainly bring him to the potential suicidal realization that he had most certainly hit rock bottom. I got out to fetch her. Amaze doesn't even come close to the feeling that came over me when I reached my sister. Unlike that bottle of cleaner, she wasn't trying to pick this fella up, but rather was making sure that he was okay. The amount of compassion and downright concern she was showing this stranger was not only unbelievable, but to be honest, well, it was touching. Donna Sue wanted to know if he had some place to go that evening on account of it being too cold for him to spend what was left of it outside. When he peered up out of his dirty blanket to tell her he didn't, the look he gave appeared to be one of shame or embarrassment or trying to hide because of the condition that she found him in. But Donna Sue didn't care about that, which she reminded me of by telling this fella that it would be all right and things would be better. "Do you know what time it is?" she asked. "It's the most wonderful time of the year," she answered herself back. "It's the time when a man just like you is out in the cold with his wife who was fat, pregnant," I interjected from the sideline, knowing where she was going with this story. "Pregnant and sitting on her ass, donkey, while her husband tried to find him a place to sleep. But every place was full." Just like my sister. Every place. But he didn't give up. No, sir. He kept knocking on doors until finally one opened up. And this flying monkey, innkeeper. Are you sure? I'm sure. Innkeeper said, "How can I help you?" The man said, "Would you like to buy a watchtower? Do you got a room? Huh? Do you got a room?" "Oh, that's right. Because my wife is fat, pregnant." And the innkeeper said, "No, but she can take her ass donkey to the manger, and you all can sleep there." He didn't have to do that. But that flying monkey, innkeeper, whatever, did that because he cared. It wasn't much, and the man and his wife would have to sleep in hay covered with cow and camel poop. Really? Oh, that's nasty. Long story short, Donna Sue, that innkeeper / flying monkey, whatever, he couldn't do much for that man and his wife. But the small amount of much was more than anybody else had done. He gave them a place to sleep. And I want to give you a place to sleep. I don't have much, but I do have a couch and some food in my fridge. Do you like fish sticks?" The man, who was obviously hungry, replied, "Yes, I do too," she said. "But I ain't got none. But I know there's a lot of other stuff in there you can eat. Plus, it'll be warm." I guess I should have feared, or at least been concerned, about the danger that could come from this. But since Donna Sue had almost fallen asleep a couple of times while telling the nativity story, I knew the fellow would be safe if he slept on her couch. Plus, my microwave deep-fried chimichanga was getting cold back in the car. So I told him we were headed that way if he wanted to take up my sister's charitable offer. Still wrapped up in his soiled king-size blanket, he got in the car, and with my sister buckled in the front seat, we made our way back to the trailer park. But during that trip, well, I couldn't help but think about what my sister had done in her drunken, sauced-up stupor. She'd reinforced the part that we who celebrate the Christmas season are the ones who actually make the season bright. The gift that God gave us of His Son is the most important part of that story for us Christians. But the generosity that unknown innkeeper showed to these people who he'd never known was so important that we recall it even to this day. His actions on that cold night are overtaken by the events to come, and rightfully so. It ain't important who he was or what the name of his business might have been. It doesn't matter if he went to a house of worship on a regular basis, if he was married or divorced, how much money he had made or had in the bank, where he'd gone to school, what his political feelings were, or the color of his skin. All of that has been lost with time. But if he hadn't shown compassion on that silent, holy night upon two strangers that came a-knocking, the Christ child would still have been born and grown up to carry on his mission. However, the annual retelling of the Nativity might have been set in some dark alley or huddled up in a doorway or even under a parked cart. But that simple act of kindness and generosity shown by the innkeeper of helping someone without praise or even monetary gain, but doing what is right and just without the thought of what do I get out of it, is recalled and honored every time we raise our voices in the carol Away in the Manger. For it was that man, that innkeeper, that flying monkey, if you will, who put the hoe in that distraught couple's ho, ho, ho. My sister, who put the hoe in that shelterless man's ho, ho, ho. And even you and I, who put the hoe in the ho, ho, ho when we go that extra mile to treat folks with the same compassion shown in Bethlehem that evening over 2,000 years ago. Regardless of the time of the year, when we treat others with respect and human decency, it's a small but valuable celebration of Christmas, of holiday hoes. And I know for a fact that night when my sister reached out to someone in need, well, that's a night the recipient of her charity and warm heart is one he will never forget. At least he hadn't forgotten it when he retold it to the police. He even recalled how after I dropped him and my overly intoxicated sister off at her trailer, he laid her out in front of the yard before hooking her trailer up to her Bonneville and heading towards Mexico. As for Donna Sue, well, she forgave him, and what else would you expect for a gal like her? After all, during this time of joy and peace, for my sister it's always a joy when she finds a peace deep in the heart of those around her who share their goodwill. Plus, like she said, what else would you come to expect from a guy who'd escaped from prison? And eventually she did get all of her stuff back. Luckily, I had most of that tip money of hers I'd gotten out of her purse, which I graciously loaned her, and she paid back, along with the 25% interest. What? Well, who do I look like, Santa Claus? Yeah, right. Ho, ho, ho.